panel has had that same struggle in some way, either with students or just giving themselves a certain kind of permission. Take it away.
Well, that rang very true as well. That was, you know, you're listening to someone and then you're going, oh, yeah, okay. And I think that part of it, the way I can angle in on it is that the additional part might be that there's so much energy you have and so many hours in the day, and my feeling with students is that I will always feel like I'm not giving enough. I'm not giving enough. And so you can give quite a bit, and then at the end of the day you don't have the energy or the time for your own work or to promote your work or do whatever you need to do with your work. So it's a struggle. There's a great mixed, wonderful joy of helping young writers in the world. It's a huge honor, and at the same time, it's very. I think it's very, very hard to refocus back on the self. Yeah, so contradictory and difficult. That's yeah.
Nothing really to add.
Okay. Okay. I was also curious, Angela, you mentioned in your introduction that you write about larger worlds that affect smaller worlds, and I so love that idea. And I kind of have a two-pronged question. First of all, how do the rest of the panelists think about their work? Do you guys think about it in terms of, you know, big ideas? You often hear people talking about, you know, they'll say, well, women write about, you know, domestic issues, domestic questions. And I wondered how you all kind of thought about your work in the context of your lives, or kind of a broader canvas, or not necessarily so.
You know, I'm very interested, as Angela is, in the ways that these two worlds that we're thought of seeing as separate, you know, the broader world and the small world, are actually incredibly interpenetrated. And, you know, I think in the piece I was reading, where I'm writing about potatoes and somebody's potatoes that she's bought at the market, but if we really start looking at those potatoes and thinking about those potatoes, they take us all kinds of places in world history. And the way that things that we've been taught to think of as mundane, things like food and, you know, going to the market, how they actually have this incredible, you know, it's actually a way that history is played out. And, you know, I don't know, as a writer, I want to seize the big ideas. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to do the nice little watercolor. I really want to, I always like writers who bite off more than they can chew. You know, that's always I always love it in a book when I feel like, boy, this writer's trying to do something and they're not quite getting it because it's so hard to do, but they're really pushing against the edge. I mean, that's what I really love in a work.
Well, when I go to book signings, a lot of times people will pick up my books, look at the back, and say, oh, you're writing about your life. And that's because I write women's fiction. And I think the most disconcerting experience I had was when a male reader contacted me through my Facebook fan page, and he asked how I knew about the NSA and Homeland Security because I was a woman. And I had to remind him that I started out as a journalist and I do research. And it kind of threw me for a loop because I didn't realize that people were pigeonholing me because I was a woman writer, and that they were making these grand assumptions that I wrote about just domestic issues and small issues and things that didn't affect men at all. So that's from my experience.
I think what I would like to add is that there's a exercise I give with classes, and I'm always telling people that to get to the big issues, you have to find the tiniest door. You always have to find the tiniest door, the potato, right? Or the light that's the lamp that is that you didn't turn off. So I actually think that I think we get to the larger issues, and I often feel with the writers, the women writers that I love, is that it again goes in through the tiniest little life or depiction or object, and then you move into class and war and all kinds of things. I mean, that there's who says that you are the change? Who says that?
Gandhi.
Was it Gandhi? It was Gandhi, right?
Actually, this quotation of Gandhi, but.
Well, you know, Gandhi isn't here to say, but you know, but I feel like what we're, if I can help speak for other people, like what we're writing, this is what we are writing the big things. You know, that this is the change that we're doing that. A little inarticulate way to do it, but there you go.
I guess the only other thing for me would be that, for me personally, I find that different genres work differently for me. I mean, for me, mostly writing poems is I mean, that was the name of the book, Carve This Body Into Your Home. I mean, it's very close to the bone, and it's very, almost like I think of writing poetry almost like a spiritual process for me. So it's very big, but it's very close to my own skin, I guess. Whereas writing the memoirs have been about specific, they've both been related to the work at the prison has been the door into talking, although I've layered a lot of stuff about my life into there. So they're about a specific experience, but very, very big, trying to look very big and raising lots of different kinds of questions, making room for lots of different questions. I've written less fiction than either poetry or nonfiction, but there too, I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like I agree. I mean, it doesn't seem like a battle between, or a choice between large and small. It seems you can be very interested in the large world, which it seems like we all are, but telling a specific story, because that's how a large world comes across. So.
Well, at this point, I'd like to, I have some more questions, but I'm interested to hear what the audience says. Are there questions from the audience for any of the panelists?
I would be interested in hearing a little bit about the Hedgebrook experience.
Sure.
It was good.
My favorite Hedgebrook story that I tell everybody was, you each have your own cabin at Hedgebrook, and then there's a shared kind of bathhouse. And there was a scale in the bathhouse, and I kept weighing myself on the scale, and I weighed so much less than I thought I would. So I said to one of the women, I mean, do you think the scale is wrong? What do you think? And she said, Judith, just like everything else at Hedgebrook, pretend it's true.
So sweet.
And I have a hard time. I've been to about 5 different residencies around the country. It was so different. It was so different at Hedgebrook. It was. I did some of the best work there, but it was that the competition was gone. It's such a fabulous place, and you get around the table at night and chat, and Alana Dykewoman is here, and I wish you could say something to this too, because it was we worked together, and but we were there at the same time, and it was such an extraordinary experience, really, that you let go of any stance you had in the world.
I found Hedgebrook to be very nurturing. Even though everyone had their own cabin, you were connected by that evening meal at the farmhouse with all the other writers. It was wonderful being able to get up and not have to take care of anyone else, just take care of the writing, and open up your door and see lunch delivered in a basket for you, and you could eat whenever you wanted. You didn't have to write all day. You could take breaks as you needed and find inspiration in the land and the walking trails. And then in the evening, that sense of community and family was just a wonderful way to end the day.
when I was at Hedgebrook, I wrote a letter to a friend of mine, and I talked about, there's an H.G. Wells novel, I think it's The Time Machine, where he goes into the future, and he's in this world where everybody's just like dancing and singing and weaving flowers, and then it turns out there's this race living underground called the Molochs, who are like coming up from underground, and you know, they're like the negative side. And I said, I keep waiting for the Molochs to come out, because everything here is so lovely. But it's a very beautiful place, and it's also, you know, I'm not a person who sort of talks about the space and the energy, but sometimes I do, I guess, because there is this really wonderful community, and I do find a real ability to go deep there, because there's such support, there's such calm, and there's such a warm sense of community that I really felt there I was able to delve into my writing in a really, really deep way.